Your host. We are live and recording.
Ready when you are, sir. Ready? Good afternoon and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners business meeting for Monday, December 18th, 2023. I will call the meeting to order. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Attorney Pratt, do we have certification of the agenda today?
Good evening, Commissioners. The items on your agenda today have been reviewed by the Office of the County Attorney and meet legal approval.
Wonderful. And do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have none.
No, sir.
And I have none either. With that, we'll move to item 2, which is our regular agenda. Item 2A is acquisition and conveyance of property located at 9228 Park Meadows Drive in Lone Tree, Colorado, in the amount of $3,838,463.56. Tim Hallmark, Director of Facilities, Fleet, and Emergency Support Services, presenting for staff. Hi, Tim.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The request before you is for the approval of payment in the amount of $3,838,463.56 to First American Title Insurance Company for the acquisition of the property located at 9228 Park Meadows Drive, Lone Tree, Colorado. The property will be utilized for the future. We have a plan for future conveyance of the property to Aging Resources Douglas County to provide services to older Douglas County residents. The anticipation that Douglas County's population of residents over the age of 65 will increase by 154% by 2050. Therefore, early in 2023, staff engaged with ARDC to locate a larger facility with efficient access to transportation corridors that is critical to supporting the increased services that will be needed. We identified the property at 9228 Park Meadows Drive in Lone Tree that would allow for the expansion of programming required to meet these forecasted needs for the older residents of Douglas County. Staff recommends the approval of the attached voucher for payment to acquire the property. Katie Erickson, the Executive Director of ARDC, is here to provide an overview of the vision and use of the space and answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you, Tim. And that might be Carrie Erickson. We might have her come up if you have any additional comments for us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today and the incredible support that Aging Resources of Douglas County has received from the Board of Commissions. It's just, there's no words. The senior population, as Tim said, is growing at a very fast rate. We plan to triple our services in the next couple years. This location will allow us to not only provide more services, but it really will serve as a gathering spot. It will be a community aging center where multiple generations can come and gather. We will have support groups in addition to our regular programming, and we're looking at a social enterprise, so as a way to not only generate income, but also provide employment for some of our older adults that are looking for just part-time employment. They only need a few $100s extra a month to remain independent and in their homes. We are pursuing different ideas at this location to offer that to the seniors. And I would love to answer any questions that the commissioners might have.
Thank you, Carrie. Any questions for staff or Carrie Erickson?
Carrie, would you like to tell us about any partners you have in this project?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We partner heavily with Secor Cares out of Parker. We have partnered with Wellsprings, and we're hoping to continue that partnership in this new location. We do many partnerships with for-profit and nonprofits throughout the community. We pride ourselves in relationships at Aging Resources, and I really believe one of the reasons we have been successful is not only having relationships with the older adults we serve and our volunteers, but to our community partners, because really to age well, it takes an entire community.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Additional questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mrs. Erickson, I mean, this sounds like to be able to move into this property, can you give us an idea of how much, what kind of impact is this going to have on the services that you provide? I mean, you're obviously successful now. We've heard it in our listening sessions with the Older Adults Initiative, but what does it mean to be able to move into this property as kind of the home base for the operation?
Thank you for that. Right now, I believe we have about 1,400 clients that are official members to Aging Resources. From the listening tour, we heard a lot of things that Aging Resources is not able to do based on physical space capacity. One of the top things we've heard over and over again is support groups. People want to come together and get and have a smaller group of community and learn about grief share, low vision, chronic illness, just ways to age successfully. We have not been able to provide that, even though they've been requested for the last several years. So that is something we'd really be able to do. I believe with this physical space, the amount of gatherings we can hold, not only for older adults, but intergenerational opportunities. How about tutoring? We could have our older adults really feel useful again, the wisdom that they're able to share, and we heard that from the listening tours. I know you remember that, Commissioner. They would be able to pass that wisdom on. Having a purpose. We know the most important things to age well is have a purpose, be able to give back, to stay active and engaged. Our plan for this space is to be able to have all of those fold in together. I think we'll really be able to increase the amount of older adults that we're serving because of the space that we'll be able to expand services. So I expect the impact is going to be very significant. I don't have solid numbers for you, but if we have had to limit the amount of clients that we are serving because of capacity, I expect in the next 5 years we'll easily double or triple that with this new space.
All right, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. Well, a high note of gratitude to Carrie and Aging Resources. You have long time been a phenomenal partner of ours, and we would not be able to serve seniors in the county without your incredible expertise and acumen. What I know of you is that you have a vision for how to serve seniors, and you know what their needs are. I would commend my colleague, Commissioner Teal, on this seniors initiative and the listening tour, because the feedback we're getting supports what you have told us for a long time. It's always transportation, but also this need for social emotional connection, especially in these years post-COVID, and that need for just a few more dollars, at the end of the month, people just trying to make their mortgage payment in a really tough economy. So can you help us understand, and maybe for those that may be in person or online, a little bit about how this might be different? This would be in my district, District 1, which is Lone Tree and Parker. This would specifically be in Lone Tree. They do have a very active and engaged senior population. There's the Lone Tree Hub. There are locations where people gather and do some of this. How is this particular concept different?
Thank you for that. It is different because what we have learned, and Lone Tree has wonderful services. It was really interesting, the listening tour that we did in Lone Tree, we specifically heard from multiple residents, support groups, and a place to consistently gather. They love going to the hub. There's also, Lone Tree does monthly luncheons. They love that. They don't want to have to wait and be able to connect once a month. This will be happening on a very regular and very intentional basis. We will offer ongoing services, so I'm sure the residents are still going to love to go to the hub. They're going to love to continue with their lunch group. This is different in that it's supportive services. Not only is it social connection, it's getting into supportive services, and that is what's missing in Lone Tree today, is the supportive services. I believe to age well, you need to have both, and there's a place for both, and there's a place for both to come together in a partnership that makes it really successful for the older residents. That's who we're listening to, is the older community, and we don't make things up. We might have ideas, but when it is then reflected back to us by the older community, we know we're on the right track. Does that answer your question?
It really does, and thank you for that. I know it's been a lot of conversation with the municipality and with leadership, and I'm really proud of Lone Tree. I mean, this is a city that is really committed to a beautiful aesthetic and growing in a way that complements the nature of what they do, both in the city and throughout the county. When we talk about that aesthetic and the nature of this facility, how will it blend into the natural, plan that Lone Tree has for the business community there?
We are going to be very mindful and work with Lone Tree to make sure that the building is reflective of what their desire is. We are going to have a design committee in which we would invite Lone Tree electeds or anyone else that is the Living Well, Aging Well community. I think somebody from that group would be perfect to be on the design committee. We want to make sure that our presence in Lone Tree is embraced and celebrated. And in order to do that, we need to work with the Lone Tree residents and electeds, in addition to Douglas County and older adults throughout the county, so that the building, the space, not only the outside, but the inside of the building, matches what Lone Tree is doing as a community.
Well, that's wonderful. I think the frank and direct statement that I know well, just being a Lone Tree resident, is they want to avoid blight, and we appreciate our local moms and pops that pop up, but I think they're looking, I don't want to speak for them, but I think we're all looking for a service provider that is there to stay. And what's nice about this project is you have the county behind you, presumably, if we move this forward after citizen comment. So I think it's really exciting for them. And my understanding is that any sort of sales tax revenue that would be generated from this facility, they would still benefit from, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then is there also a charitable partnership involved with this exchange?
There is. One of I think, a gift that has come through this building, working with Douglas County, working with the owner of the building. His parents started this restaurant 20, 30 years ago. It's been a family restaurant. In honor of his parents, upon the closing of this building, a $500,000 gift will be given to the older adults of Douglas County. It will be deposited into Aging Resources account, and it will go directly to provide services around this new building. I think, again, when Commissioner Thomas asked about partnerships, this, I think, is yet another partnership. When we talk about the vision and the mission of Aging Resources, we put the older adult first. The older adult comes before anything else. The older adult and the older residents drive every decision that we make. I think this wonderful donation that the owner is giving in honor of his parents, it fits beautifully into the whole package.
Well, that's so exciting. So what you're saying is by us moving forward today, you're securing a $500,000 charitable contribution to this project for
Yes,
seniors.
sir. Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, I know we've asked a lot of you, and we know you are not a restaurateur, and you are not an architect. But again, I think what you're saying is you will be contracting for those services in cooperation with our facilities director and staff to ensure that you have all those pieces.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I have none.
Commissioner Teal?
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if I could get back to staff, and I appreciate the input, Mrs. Erickson. But question for staff, Mr. Hallmark, what are we looking at the sourcing for these funds? I mean, is this something we're diverting from law enforcement or core services here in the county?
So for the funds for the purchase of the property,
Yes, sir.
my understanding is we're going to be using the actual interest accrued from ARPA funds.
Okay, so the federal funds that the county
sir.
received in last year, kind of the COVID recovery funds?
Yes, sir.
Congress granted, but we're not using it's not like you said we're using the interest that we've accrued because we haven't really spent much of that, even though we've allocated just about every penny, if I recall properly. So it's that interest that we've accrued from that $68 million that we're applying here in order to provide this, or really expand the service for the older adults of the county.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. That's I just nuts and bolts. We can talk about the things we want to do, but I think we did need to cover the sourcing of those funds.
I always think that's a really good point, and thank you for that catch. We're not raising taxes or going into debt to establish this facility if we vote to approve it. That's great. Okay, well, with that, let me open it up for any citizen comment. I know we're looking forward to hearing from citizens on this item. Any citizen comment? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
My name is Jill Campbell. I'm a Highlands Ranch resident, but a native Colorado, 53 years. So I know the area well. But I was just looking, it's by the Panera, is that right? Panera Bread, am I in the right location? And could you just guide, I searched the location, and can you be more specific?
And ma'am, if you want to just direct the comments to the Board of County Commissioners, that's fine.
My comments were based on the location of where these services are. You've got a bowling alley, you've got Mexican restaurant, you've got Nails, which is nice, and Park Meadows. I assume that's right where it is, it's C470 West, and us crosses with Quebec or Park Meadows Drive that way. And so I would be concerned a little bit, not the area for safety reasons, but just if the increase becomes social, is that parking lot even sustainable for that? I mean, I would just look at it more. The property for the elderly people, there is, I think, an Indian restaurant just south of that, and then you've got Park Meadows, southwest. So the parking might be an issue for you, is it? I mean, I don't know. I would take a look at the property around it because you've got restaurants. It's a very packed area. So just my question about the property, about the ability to sustain that kind of, if it is. I don't know much about the project. I'm just throwing out the layout of the land.
That's a great question. Thank you. Any additional citizen comment? Okay, do we have any citizen comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, with that, I'll close citizen comment and maybe just ask staff and the applicant if there's any response to citizen comment.
The property alone has 88 dedicated spaces that are part of the actual owned property that come with the facility. Site-wide, with the shared parking agreement within that HOA of that area, exceeds 300 parking spaces.
Okay, Okay, so I do have a question about that because I'm really excited and energized about how well Lone Tree Link is doing. And I know there's a lot of conversation around the expansion of Link and perhaps adapting some of those vehicles to accommodate seniors. When it comes to those vehicles, is there, and this might be premature, so if it is, that's okay, but is there a sense of where those future Link vehicles might be stored? Would this be part of that project?
Not that's been discussed so far, Commissioner, no.
Okay. So I just want to confirm that the parking lot we're talking about today is not going to be particularly burdensome when it comes to storage of vehicles.
No, sir.
Okay. Anything else for staff?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I will close, we did close citizen comment. I'll bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
You know, it was made, the point was made by Mrs. Erickson that there's really good confidence that this property acquisition and conveyance to Aging Resources to Douglas County really came as a part of the work done earlier this year with the Older Adults Initiative. And I know, having an opportunity to be a board member with ARDC and having an opportunity to work very closely with Mrs. Erickson this summer, that, you know, this was not necessarily the goal before we began the process. But during those listening sessions, hearing what the seniors of Douglas County, you know, really do want for their lives in retirement, it's that part-time work opportunities. It is that place to come and meet and socialize. And by golly, when this popped up, this just seemed perfect. This seemed like the perfect opportunity. You know, the old property, by the way, is the Brewery Bar 2. And of course, we heard from staff, the parking capabilities around it are really very robust. And the fact that it is going to be in an area where Lone Tree does look to redevelop, I think could be a really great anchor and could be a part of that redevelopment and revitalization of the area that can be anchored, a service center delivering services we know our residents need. And as Lone Tree pursues their economic development goals around it, I mean, I just see that as a plus. So it's really my distinct honor and privilege to introduce this motion to approve the acquisition and conveyance of property located at 9228 Park Meadows Drive, Lone Tree, Colorado, in the amount of $3,838,663.56.
And Commissioner, I might just offer an amendment to that motion. Did you mean $463.56?
Yeah, did I not say that? I stand corrected.
It could be
Thank
my
you,
old
Chair.
ears. I don't know.
I
Okay.
stand corrected, Chair. You have that correct.
I'll second with the corrected amount.
Okay, so we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. And, you know, maybe just a point of personal privilege, I would add that it's nice to see, once again, this board work unanimously on a project that simply was an initiative earlier this year, work with community partners, and then actually have an action item that is responsive to seniors. So nicely done. Excited to see what's next.
Thank you so much. I am beyond grateful for all of the older adults in Douglas County, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. So with that, the next regular business meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 9th, 2024 at 1:30 p.m. We are adjourned.